So what we did in 5.1 is we saw what a graph looks like, and we saw that sometimes our exponential graphs, and you can add these asymptotes on both of these ones. Sometimes our exponential graphs are increasing. That's when the base is like 2 to the x, 3 to the x, 5 to the x, anything bigger than 1. And sometimes they're decreasing when the value of a is between 0 and 1. And so underneath this, you can just write these down. I just drew 2 extra examples. Y equals 3 to the x, and y equals 1/2 to the x. So maybe you can add those either on the side, on page 345 at the top, or maybe on page 344. So the key points that we always label is we always label 0, 1. Because when the exponent is 0, doesn't matter what the base is, any base to the exponent 0 will be equal to 1. And then I also plug in 1 because it's super easy when the exponent is 1 to do the mental math. So if the base is 3, you'd have 1, 3. And when the base was 1/5, you'd have 1, 1/5. And you start to notice that the fraction ones, like the 1/5, sort of looks like a reflection of the other ones, a horizontal reflection. In fact, if we think about horizontal reflections, right? My 1/5, I could write that 5 as 5 to the negative 1, and then I could use my exponent rules. I could write it as 5 to the negative x. The 1/5 x graph is just a horizontal reflection of the y equals 5 to the x graph. But for the most part, it's just easy to graph it directly. So we have some exponential graphs that are increasing and some that are decreasing. So let's go to example 1. We have 1/3 of it to the x. So as far as graphing that goes, you're always going to include 0, 1. Then if you plugged in 1 here, you get 1, 1/3. You're going to have an asymptote at y equals 0. And you can just draw your graph towards your asymptote. Okay. In graphing, there is an E10 error for asymptotes. You can get an E10 error in a couple of different ways. One of the most common ways is you draw it, but you forgot to show the dotted line and write the equation of your asymptote. So you draw your graph with the asymptotic behavior, it's called, but you forget to draw the asymptote. On the exam, that's an E10 error. You can also get an E10 error with asymptotes if you're like sloppy and like, oh, I went through it a little bit. That you can't do that. So the asymptote is there to get closer and closer to it. Or you can get an E10 error by being very good and getting closer and closer, and then right at the end you decide to go up. That would be an E10 error as well. So on the exam, if you have a graph that is asymptotes, they're very particular. It's there to show that your graph is getting closer and closer to it, not touching it, and not, as the purple goes there, going away further at the end. So now to answer these questions. When x increases by 1, y is multiplied by 1/3. Right? Because I can label another point on here. If I increase the x 1 more, then the y value gets multiplied by 1/3. Is this one increasing or decreasing? This is decreasing. We have a y-intercept at 0, 1, and this one has no x-intercepts. Equation of our asymptote is y equals 0. The domain is everything, and the range is greater than 0 but not equal to 0. So you could either write it this way, or in interval notation you would use the round bracket 0 to infinity. Ones you can circle are 3, 5, and 7.